Good morning, or good evening, or good whatever the heck time of day it is for you where you are. This is a very exciting episode, people. This is the episode where we are getting Booker's super amazing tight target back on the road. Unfortunately, this episode is going to be a little bit bittersweet because this should be what is the final episode in this series on our super sick tight target. I will miss this thing, to be honest, but we can't start counting our chickens or cows or whatever the saying is quite yet because we've got a lot of work yet to do. But believe you me, by the end of this episode, this beautiful steed is going to be ripping on down the road and it's going to be exciting. So definitely don't want to miss that. Stay tuned.
Rippin', tearin', the rippin' and the tearin'.
Well, all right, enough talk. Let's go ahead, start cranking some wrenches and slapping some, no, that's not it. I don't know. We need to get this engine off this engine stand before we can do anything. So I'm gonna go ahead and do that, and then we'll pick up with actually cranking the, what was I saying? I don't know. All right, I gotta get this engine off this engine stand. Where's my coffee? All right, now before we can continue on mating our engine up with our transmission, we have one more thing to do, and that is swap out the rear main seal. Now, as we saw in the previous episode when we were kind of diagnosing that leak, actually I think it was a couple episodes ago, we were trying to figure out if the leak was coming from the rear main seal or the IMS flange, and I believe the answer is neither of them. It's very possible that the dual mass flywheel that was originally on this car exploded, shot all of its grease everywhere, and coated everything in it, and was the fluid that was leaking out between the engine and transmission, causing there to appear like there was a really bad oil leak. But nonetheless, it's never a bad idea to go ahead and swap out the rear main seal while we're in there. So we're going to go ahead and do that. Therefore, we have to start with pulling the old one out. It's kind of deceiving. They look like they would just be like a rubber seal, but there's actually like a very thick, solid metal core inside of them with a rubber coating. So in order to get them out, you don't pry, do not start prying on one of these. You're just gonna mess up the engine case housings or the crankshaft. You do not want to do that. All right, so I'm gonna go ahead and drill our hole in the very bottom here. Reason being, well, there's a chain guide here and here for the intermediate shaft chain, and I don't want to risk hitting that chain or either one of those guides with my drill bit. Now I've done this where I've drilled in different areas before, and I kind of purposely put my drill bit kind of shallow into my drill, or deep rather into my drill, so that it will only be shallow when it goes through. Additional precaution never hurts. Boom. All right, now this is gonna be kind of hard to see, but I'm just trying to show you what I mean. On the left side here, that's the tensioning guide for the IMS chain. On the right side, it's black, so it's gonna be kind of hard to tell, but you can see one of the mounting bolts for it. That's just kind of the idler guide for it. And then up and around the crank, you can see the chain itself, and you can see it going down to the intermediate shaft on either side. So that's why I went ahead and put the hole right in the middle so that I didn't risk hitting one of those. And I think I had my drill bit shallow enough to where I wasn't going to. Nonetheless, again, it's good to be careful. Well, all right, we've got our brand new Sealy Boy installed. Therefore, it's officially time that we can mate up the engine and transmission again. I could not be more excited. Let's get them mated up. They missed each other, I think. Probably. Well, friends, there it is. Engine and transmission reunited once again, and what a freaking beautiful sight that is. We need to go ahead and stop messing around get these things way back up in that thing so that this thing can once again drive under its own power. I'm gonna go ahead and get ripping on it. Okay, well, engine and transmission are preliminarily installed, and just so. Obviously nothing is hooked up yet. We have so much more ahead of us. And in fact, I don't even have the engine and transmission mounts torqued down yet. They're just kind of set just so they can hold the engine and transmission up in the car. We're loosey-goosey at the moment. So I'm gonna go ahead and start first and foremost with getting those nice and tightened down. Then we can begin plugging everything in that we need to have put together for the first engine start. All the electrical connections, fuel, coolant lines, and we'll add fluid, of course. So I'm gonna start getting chugging on that so that the next step can be the very first start. Let's go ahead and do it. Well, folks, update time. We are in a bit of a good news, bad news situation currently. Good news is we have everything back together, plugged in, tightened down, good to go for the very first start. With the exception of putting fluids in it. Coolant, power steering fluid, oil. That being said, we're having a bit of a coolant problem right now. I went ahead and began to pull a vacuum on the system. And the nice thing about that vacuum bleeder is that you can check if you have any leaks by just shutting off the vacuum source and seeing if the pressure begins to return towards atmosphere. And unfortunately, we are in that exact scenario. The thing about the vacuum bleeder is that it will tell you that there is a leak, but it doesn't show you the source of the leak, of course. It's just a pressure gauge. I've spent about the better part of the last hour trying to diagnose where that leak is coming from. Now I found one hose connection that has a lot of corrosion up and around it. I wonder if that could be the cause of our very small vacuum leak. So I went ahead and took that off, cleaned it all up, got all the corrosion away from it, and resealed it with a nice new hose clamp, because we all know that the stupid spring clamps that Porsche insists on using absolutely suck. I also went ahead and did the 2 heater core lines that are directly below that main hose, just for good measure. Put some new hose clamps on those as well. But that hose joint definitely did look suspect, and we got it cleaned up. So hopefully that was the source of our leak. I'm gonna go ahead and test that really quickly. Cross your fingers. Let's freaking hope and pray that what I just fixed was our problem and we've got it remedied.
Many minutes later.
All right, well, it's a little bit later and I have another update. I actually decided to go ahead and clean up another 2 major hose joints that I found that had some corrosion around them. After doing the first one, I went ahead and pulled the cooling system back down to vacuum, and it was about 98% better with regards to the leak. However, there was still a little bit of a leak. So I did some more investigating, went back underneath the car, and found a couple more major joints that had some amount of corrosion. Not terrible like the very first one I did, but some. So we pulled those apart, got those cleaned up, got them resealed, and put some actual worm gear style hose clamps on them. Again, absolutely hate the spring clamps. We now have the cooling system back down to vacuum. Again, it's a little bit better still, yet it is still returning to atmosphere very slowly. It's been sitting like this for about 10 minutes and it has come up in pressure a little bit, which worries me, but at this point, it is what it is. I've spent about 2 hours at this point trying to track down these leaks in the cooling system, and I don't know where the other ones could be. So we're kind of at this point where we just need to add coolant to the system and see if we can find any drips coming from anywhere. So let's go ahead and get some coolant in this thing. Hopefully we don't see coolant puking out the bottom of this car. Great. All right, let's go ahead, get some coolant put back up in this thing. Here we go. All right, well, the cooling system situation is just kind of TBD at the moment, unfortunately. Coolant has been in the system for just over an hour now, and there are no leaks underneath the car, no drips of any kind. So I think we're just gonna have to do is wait until we get the engine started, get it nice and pressurized, and then check for leaks then. So we've got to keep chugging forward. We need to put engine oil in this thing, which I'm currently doing, and power steering fluid, and then it's time for the first start. We are that close, people. We're that close. We are going with this AMSOIL Signature Series 5W50 weight engine oil. We decided to go up in weight just slightly, just because this is a spring, summer, and fall car for Booker. Now, on the note of AMSOIL, this is not a sponsorship whatsoever. This is more of just kind of like an FYI. Now, for all of you who have been watching the channel for a long time, you'll know that I used to be sponsored by Redline. And everything I said about Redline in past videos is absolutely 100% true. I do think it's fantastic oil. I knew I wanted to take water-cooled restoration fully legit. And in taking it legit, of course, I want to be able to provide my customers with the absolute best possible service. And part of providing my customers with the best possible service means providing them with the best possible fluids to put in their car. So I decided to become an AMSOIL dealer. Yeah, that's right. Your boy's an AMSOIL dealer. Now, you astute observers out there will have noticed that in probably the last couple months worth of videos, I have had the dealership information for myself down in the description of the videos, letting you know where you can sign up to become a preferred customer of mine. But I haven't mentioned it because, again, not sponsored, just a dealer. I don't want to be pushy with you guys. What everyone puts in their car is a very, very, touchy topic. The information's there if you need it. If you want to become one of my preferred customers, click the link in the description of this video below, where you can sign up for a small $20 annual fee. You can save 25% on all AMSOIL products. Yeah, their entire catalog. It's honestly a very, very good customer program. Definitely worth checking out if you're at all interested in AMSOIL products. And while it may seem ridiculous to pay an annual fee for oil, well, just think about, first of all, how good these products are, but also think about how much you spend on oil alone for every single oil change for your Porsche. Well, now take 25% off that. There you go. You just covered your $20 annual fee for AMSOIL products in one single oil change. And odds are you've got oil that you need to put in other cars as well. So it's definitely worth it if that is your situation. Anyway, I gotta get to putting oil in this thing, then we'll throw some power steering fluid in it, and then it's crazy to say, but we can turn the key for the very first time right after we do that. Let's do it. Well, friends, the time for the big moment has come. Now all we have to do is turn the key, build some fuel pressure, and hopefully have a successful first start. Here it is. Let's do it. Let's do it. Just a note, I did already go ahead and push the clutch down, but we do have a brand new slave cylinder in this that's not bled, so the clutch is just on the floor. Hence why I'm able to start the car without holding the clutch down. Let's just see if she cranks first and foremost. Okay, she cranks. That's good. Obviously, we have to build fuel pressure. Sounds really, really good. All right, now that we got the first start out of the way, let's go ahead and shut it off. We'll top the oil back up to where it needs to be, because no doubt the sump has gotten sucked down a couple quarts. All right, successful first start. Feels good. Let's go check the oil. Oh yeah, she's low. I don't even think it's touching the dipstick. Sweet. All right, let's put another quart in, see where it is.
A few moments later.
Good news. This thing has been running for, probably about 15 minutes at this point. Coolant is officially up to temperature. Oil is getting there. Everything sounds wonderful. And so far, from what I can tell, there are no drips of coolant on the floor. Oh wait, did I just speak too soon? Hold on. I think I maybe just found our coolant leak. Great. Well, I guess the good news about that is potentially we know where it is now. Bad news is I'm gonna have to tear several things back apart to get to it. It looks like it's one of the two hoses right here going right to the expansion tank. I was literally just starting to say that the coolant system should be more or less up to pressure now because I have not loosened the cap at all. So I was gonna start looking for coolant leaks, and I think we may have found it. So good news is first start's going well. Bad news is first drive, a little bit postponed potentially depending on what it is we find here. So we'll see. All right, I believe I found our leak and I'm not thrilled. I believe this leak is actually coming from the breather valve on our brand new expansion tank. And it's just right in between the plastic, white plastic of the tank and the black plastic of the breather portion. Kinda not great. This is literally a brand new part. We just swapped this out and it appears to be leaking. Probably gonna have to pull this back out so I can pull the expansion tank out just a little bit to get some better access to all these bolts around it. Maybe I can steel this up a little bit better. Maybe it's loose, I don't know. Let me just see. Oh, they are kind of loose. So I don't want to strip them either, so. Maybe is that the freaking problem? This is just loose? Huh, all right, well, I'm gonna wipe this down best I possibly can so that I can get all of the coolant dribbles out of there. We'll fire it back up, build up some more pressure in the system again, which shouldn't be too hard because I haven't popped the cap off yet, so there's still plenty of pressure in the system. Hopefully that's all it needed. Whew. Good news, everybody. Nothing has to come back out, at least I don't think so. I just had the car running for another 10 minutes or so, and not a single coolant leak is going on. It turned out that it was that little breather joint. All we had to do was tighten those 8mm bolts down all the way around it, and it solved the problem. I've never seen that before. I mean, that is a brand new expansion tank. It came from the factory not sealing properly? What is going on? Anyway, it's been a bit of a saga, but we just had a successful first start and a second and third and fourth start, and we completely solved all of our coolant leak issues. So I am thrilled to be able to say that we can go ahead and start putting this puppy back together the rest of the way. Well, all right. Car's all done. What do you guys say? We go for a little bit of a test rip. Very crucial freaking step. The first actual cold start after just the installation. This is it. It hasn't run since yesterday. Let's see how she sounds. Do a quick oil check real quick. Oil level's good. Let's fire it up. ABS failure. Okay, crisis averted. We got a random ABS and VSA light that popped up, and I was like, why in the, that was not there before. Reason was, I forgot to plug back in the MAF sensor after I uninstalled and reinstalled the intake yesterday when we were diagnosing that coolant leak. So, all good, crisis averted. We got that plugged in. She's running smooth as silk now. She was running a little weird when I first fired it up because the MAF wasn't plugged in. Anyway, okay, let's go ahead and take her for her first test drive. All right, new clutch feels good, by the way. Unfortunately, we are doing this drive on a crummy freaking day. Weather in Ohio has just been weird. Well, it kind of always is, but it was very, very cold for about a month, and we just warmed up from that cold. It's now like 50 degrees outside, 54 according to the car. So everything is just thawing. All of the snow is thawing. All right, I'm just gonna go do a quick double check, make sure everything sounds good before we take off, and then we'll take off. Sounds great. The engine is coming up to temperature nicely. Sorry, Booker, I'm adjusting your mirror. Just going down my normal test drive road here. This is kind of a 1.5 lane little B road, and it's great for stuff like this because there's basically never any traffic. So in the event that I need to pull over and check something out, well, here we are. I love going for a drive in a 911, guys. This is where it's freaking at. Nothing better. There is absolutely nothing better than just going for a cruise in a freaking Porsche. Dude, this thing, as I'm just warming it up, this thing's a freaking torque monster. This thing is nice. All right. It honestly is very reminiscent of my my 996 Project Beef with the 3.8 liter. I haven't even gotten into it yet, but I can just tell this thing's nice and torquey. Okay, I'm just gonna pull over, just do another quick sound check, make sure everything looks and feels good. Okay, everything looks good. Let's set off. And the engine is officially up to temp now, which is nice. Dude, this thing sounds incredible. Holy cow. You would never know this thing sounds like that when it's just idling. But then you get into it and, oh, you know what? I bet part of that's the intake. Oh, for sure. This thing's got this cold air intake. Holy cow. That makes a hell of a difference. Oh my gosh, I freaking need one of those. Holy yeah, dude. That's the most addicting freaking sound of all time. Oh yeah. Okay. Oh man, this thing's good fun. Oh, dude, that is so addicting. Oh my gosh. Yeah, man, I gotta say, this car is freaking sick. This car is absolutely awesome. Booker, you got a good one, dude. You got a freaking good one. Keep this thing. Freaking hold on to it. What an absolute gem. All right, well, let's finish up this test drive. Hopefully, we get back to the shop and don't see any fluids dripping out the bottom. Crossing our fingers. I'll see you guys in just a sec back at the shop. Okay, so I actually just got back from what ended up being the second test drive. After getting back from the first drive, I was a little bit worried that we were still getting a little bit of coolant leaking from around that breather joint in the new expansion tank. So I double checked things, spent quite a while looking things over, tightened all those bolts up a little bit, just one more time, let everything cool back down entirely once again, and then just took it out for another test drive to get everything back up to temp, build pressure in the coolant system yet again. And I'm happy to report that there are no coolant leaks. On that note, I think we can officially say that this project is, boom, complete. Stamp of completion on this amazing tight Targa. Tight! I'm honestly so honored to be able to work on this thing. I mean, and just work on Porsches like this in general. This thing is such a pristine example of such a rare Porsche. And dude, I'm just feeling blessed. So Booker, thank you so much for trusting me with your amazing 911. And man, did it feel good to get a 911 back out on the road, because I have not had that thing out on the road since maybe like November, December. And so we're gonna go ahead and call it here today with the conclusion of yet another project here on Funhead TV. This was a really, really fun one, and I really, really enjoyed it. So quick shameless plug, if you have a Porsche of any kind, M96, M97 powered or otherwise, that you would like to have some sort of service done to, anything from an oil change all the way up to an entire engine rebuild, hit me up. Water-Cooled Restoration is the name of my company. You can email me at info@watercooledrestoration.com to inquire about pricing and scheduling. We can chit-chat it out and get you on the books. So thank you all again so much for being here today. I really appreciate each and every one of you for being here. Yes, you, I'm looking right at you, and I will see you all in the next episode. Later.
Rippin', tearing, the ribbon